One of my most anticipated movies of 2026 is here, Project Hail Mary. It's the new blockbuster science fiction adventure from directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. It's a genuine crowd-pleasing blockbuster, one of those rare four-quadrant spectacles that manages to feel both massive in scale and deeply personal at the same time. In a movie landscape often dominated by repetitive franchise entries, Project Hail Mary feels refreshing. A visually stunning, emotionally engaging story about ingenuity, cooperation, and the stubborn optimism of humanity. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sophist. My name is Bill, and I am a lifelong science fiction fan since I was a small child growing up in the 80s. This review will contain some light spoilers, so if that's something that bothers you, you may want to click away. I have been eagerly awaiting Project Hail Mary since I first heard they were making this movie over a year ago. I'm a big fan of the book written by Andy Weir, author of The Martian. When it was first announced, I wondered to myself how someone could even adapt this into a movie. The narrative was there, but I believe that there was just simply too much science in the book to make it a palatable movie for mainstream audiences. But they did it. Adapted by screenwriter Drew Goddard, the film explores the idea of a lone individual stranded in the unforgiving vastness of space. The burden falls on Ryan Gosling, who carries much of the film as Dr. Ryland Grace. When Grace wakes up aboard a spacecraft light years from Earth, he finds himself alone, disoriented, and facing a dire situation. His two crewmates are dead, and the mission he barely remembers undertaking is teetering on the brink of failure. The sound of Sunday Morning Coming Down by Chris Christopherson plays on the soundtrack as the reality of his situation slowly comes into focus. The stakes could not be higher. Something mysterious is threatening the sun itself, and humanity's survival may depend on Grace's ability to solve the puzzle. A school teacher and a molecular biologist, Grace never dreamed of becoming an astronaut. Yet under the direction of the determined project leader Eva Stratt, played with intensity by Sandra Hüller, he finds himself drafted into a desperate, last-ditch mission to save the planet. Much of the film's emotional weight comes from Grace's struggle with isolation. Gosling portrays him as capable and intelligent, but also deeply uncertain about whether he belongs in such a high-stakes role. But Grace's solitude doesn't last forever. Soon he encounters an alien presence unlike anything seen before in science fiction. The creature, an enigmatic being that Grace eventually names Rocky, transforms the film into something far more surprising. Their attempts to communicate build on classic science fiction themes explored in films such as 2001: A Space Odyssey, Silent Running, Contact, Interstellar, and Arrival. Yet, Project Hail Mary pushes the idea even further, devoting enormous attention to the painstaking process of figuring out how two entirely different species might share ideas, concepts, and even trust. What emerges is one of the most unexpected and charming friendships in modern science fiction. Grace and Rocky begin as strangers from completely different worlds, but gradually discover that they share the same urgent mission, saving their respective civilizations from extinction. Their partnership evolves into an unlikely but deeply moving bromance, perhaps the most heartfelt human-alien relationship since E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Music helps shape the emotional tone of the story. Music by the Beatles underscores the growing bond between the two characters, reinforcing the film's theme that friendship and cooperation can bridge even the most unimaginable divides. The score to this movie is also outstanding. While the core narrative unfolds in deep space, the film periodically returns to Earth through a series of flashbacks. These scenes reveal how Grace was recruited for the mission and introduce the scientists and colleagues who pushed him into taking on the responsibility. Although the flashbacks occasionally interrupt the forward momentum of the space storyline, they serve as a clever function. They reveal key pieces of information exactly when Grace remembers them. This is something that I thought worked so well in the book, and it also worked well in the movie. As the puzzle of the mission slowly comes together, so does our understanding of Grace himself, his fears, his doubts, and why he might sometimes feel tempted to abandon a world that doesn't always feel like home, despite the students he teaches and the supportive scientists around him. The film also sprinkles in references to pop culture, from nods to Close Encounters of the Third Kind to offhand mentions of Meryl Streep and the Rocky films. Unlike the shallow wink at the camera references that populate many modern blockbusters, these moments actually serve a narrative purpose. They illustrate how Grace tries to explain human culture to Rocky, and how both characters attempt to understand one another through the things that matter most to them. In many ways, Project Hail Mary succeeds where other famous sci-fi films might struggle. In the image to this video, I ask if this is better than Interstellar and E.T. Compared with Interstellar, which sometimes gets lost in its own cosmic scale and dense exposition, Project Hail Mary keeps its emotional core simple and direct. The friendship between Grace and Rocky provides a constant human anchor that prevents the story from drifting into abstraction. And while E.T. the Extraterrestrial remains a classic tale of childhood wonder, its story is ultimately smaller and more sentimental. Project Hail Mary delivers that same emotional warmth while pairing it with hard science, high stakes, and a truly interstellar scope. The result is a film that captures both the wonder of meeting an alien intelligence and the thrilling challenge of solving a cosmic problem together. So yes, in my opinion, it is better than those films. At 2 hours and 30 minutes, the premise, essentially a man and a rock discussing science and space, might not sound like obvious blockbuster material. But as history shows, films like Close Encounters of the Third Kind or E.T. the Extraterrestrial didn't seem like guaranteed hits on paper either. What matters is execution, and Project Hail Mary delivers that in abundance. The film captures a sense of awe reminiscent of classic Steven Spielberg storytelling. Grand ideas presented with warmth, humor, and genuine wonder. The science is fascinating, the adventure is gripping, and Gosling's performance carries the film with charm and vulnerability. Even his rotating collection of science nerd t-shirts becomes part of the character's appeal. By the time the credits roll, Project Hail Mary feels like the kind of movie audiences rarely get anymore. A big, heartfelt, original sci-fi story that makes you laugh, think, and maybe even cry a little bit. If the film doesn't move you, you might just be made of stone. For everyone else, the appropriate response is clear. Raise your fist and return the bump. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you like this video, please hit like and consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Project Hail Mary? Take care.